Hey guys, Brian with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana with episode number 11 of the Pop Report. I've got at Midwest Vintage Cars, Josh Adams with us as always. Josh, welcome. How are you? How's your weekend going?
Good. Happy Sunday. Good afternoon.
Happy Sunday. We're shooting a little bit early today to make our schedules fit. We're both busy. We both got a lot going on in the 9 days leading up to the National. I can't believe it.
Can't believe it.
It's exciting. I'm still excited. I'm still a little bit worried about logistics and travel and stuff like that. But I know I'm in good hands and I know I'll figure it out. I can just play dumb and ask people how to get to where I'm trying to get to. Right?
Yes, right. We'll be fine. We'll get there eventually.
The thing I'm worried about is how dumb I'm going to sound and look when I actually get to the convention center, because I am literally going to be a kid in a candy store. I'm not going to have any idea what to do.
You'll be all right.
I'm going to write down an agenda. I'm OCD like that. You know how I am with spreadsheets and lists and, hierarchies. I'm going to write down a list of what I want to accomplish. And really, I want to take like the first 2 or 3 hours just to freaking synthesize and process everything when I walk in the room.
Well, the good thing is Wednesday's the late night, so you got a lot of time.
Yes, that's right. And then I've gotten so many DMs. I'm sure you're the exact same way. The only difference is you've been there and done that. But I've gotten so many DMs of people saying, hey, make sure you hit me up when you get there. And I'm like, man, there ain't no way. I was like, if you see me, I want you to grab me, right? But like, there's no way in hell. Like I've literally got like 75 DMs of, hey, come find me. I'm at table, blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
I'm like, no.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I was like, I can't do it. I was like, there's no way I'm writing down 45 tables and going to see everybody. But I will make it a point. I want to see every single table by like midday Thursday and not buy one single card. Is that bad? Is that a dumb idea?
No, I don't know. If you see a card you like, buy it. Because if you see it and you pass, it may not be there.
It might not, but I want to make sure I don't buy, a big card when I was like, God, I wish I'd not bought that card because I didn't know this card was there. So I want to try to do enough laps around this place that I know exactly kind of what's there. And I'm sure a lot of tables, like if I see a vintage hockey table, no offense, right? But I'll probably keep on walking, so that's one less table I got to remember. But I want to get around the whole thing and kind of identify all the 90s insert tables, because that's primarily what I'm going to look for. I mean, again, I might find an ultra modern card that I like or whatever, but it's highly unlikely I walk out of the National with more than 3 cards if I had to guess. It's going to be primarily 90s stuff, unless I find an awesome dollar box, which I absolutely love. So
those are fun, but those are huge time sucks, right?
They are time sinks, aren't they? And I don't know how much of it I'm going to have, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going to have a hell of a lot more time than I think I'm going to have. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so today's episode, I think a lot of old people, here's what I've come to the conclusion. You're not super helpful. You're basically useless for the show unless we start talking about baseball, weird, bread truck cards or Hostess Twinkie baseball cards or hockey. And so I am going to cater to you, right? I care about you. You're my friend. I care about your feelings. You feel left out with the rest of the hobby and Instagram and all that stuff. So we're going straight vintage today, start to finish. We are going to go through our list, right? We've each put together our independent list of our most important top 10 vintage rookie cards. And people are going to ask that question, Josh. They're going to say, what do you mean by vintage? You and I have different definitions of vintage. I know that. We've discussed this. But we're going to use my definition, which starts at 1980. It includes 1980 tops, and it goes backwards. I know that's arbitrary, but we're going to do it, for not so subtle reasons, right? We know what 1980 means in the basketball card collected hobby, right? So we're going to go 80 backwards, and you can pick any year, any player, and we're not going with grades. And this is not based on value, right? And we talked about that. This is not what are the most valuable cards. Anybody can go on Card Ladder or their data, pricing tool and figure out what's the most expensive, what's the least, blah, blah, blah. George Mikan, PSA 10s, and all this crap. We're not doing that. This is what we think are the most important vintage cards. If you and I were going to put together a top, our vintage top 10, these are the cards we'd go after, and we're going to talk about them in order. Is that fair?
Yep.
Cool. We're on the same page. So the way we're going to do it is I'm going to ask you to start with number 10 on your list, and then I'll kind of chime in after that and tell you where it is on my list. But you're going to tell me number 10. You'll tell me why it's number 10. I've got Card Ladder pulled up. We've got it over here. So we'll pull up your card. We'll look at it. We'll look at like the first what I've got pulled up, Josh, is kind of the first affordable, attainable grade for that card in PSA, right? So if you see George Mikan, 1948 Bowman, I've got PSA 6 pulled up, a card that normal human beings can find and afford. Does that make sense? We're just going to kind of find that sweet spot card. So let's go. Let's kick it off. Tell me, and look, I'm playing your game, so I may sound stupid here. So this will be a role reversal. Usually we'll ask a question about Prism, and you just kind of stare at the camera, scratch your head, play with your kids, whatever. So I might look really dumb here. So I'm going to give it my best shot, and I'm sure I'll get some derogatory comments telling me how much I don't know about vintage cards. But talk me through it. Start with card number 10 for you.
So card number 10 for me, I'm kind of thinking out of the box on this one. I went with Phil Jackson, mostly because because of his playing days, but because of his coaching days and just how legendary he was with the Bulls in the 90s. The triangle offense changed the game in the 90s, and then he did it all over again in the early 2000s with Kobe and Shaq. Yeah, and he's left an indelible mark on the game as a coach. So I think he should be recognized, and not top 5 vintage cards, but I think definitely top 10 and number 10 on my list. That's where he comes in.
That's fair. If you take into account, obviously, his and he won a title as a player too, of course, on some nasty Knicks teams. Mm-hmm. It might have been the last Knicks team to win it, right? I think it was way back when, right? So his rookie card I've got pulled up on the screen. It's 1972 Topps. You said he had an indelible impact on the league as a coach and on the Lakers and the Bulls. Clearly he did. You've got all the people in the world who are like, oh, he's a product of Pippen and Jordan. And then you've got that other kind of faction out there that's like, if it wasn't for him, they may not have done it. They may never have done it. They
had Doug Collins. They were together for years before, and Doug Collins couldn't get him past the Pistons. Yeah. They brought in Phil, and all of a sudden the rest is history. So
and so where there's smoke, there's fire, and when things happen, when good things happen around players and coaches, that many times, there's more to it than just dumb luck, right? Like Robert Ory's got a hell of a lot of rings. That's not just dumb luck, right? I mean, I know he wasn't the alpha. He's not the reason everybody had all those rings, but he's in the right place, the right time, and he mattered on a lot of those rings. Phil Jackson clearly spearheaded a lot of those. I've always said that it looks like he looks like Adam Lefkoe in that picture. He definitely doesn't look like a basketball player. It looks like he looks like a stoner. And I'll say this: the two most misshapen people that I've ever seen in the sport of basketball, Kevin McHale.
Yes.
And Phil Jackson. Yes. When you see those dudes in their uniforms, they look like freaky, like misshapen skeletons. Like their shoulders are preposterously wide and like tall and high. It's the strangest look. Those two guys have always just struck me as very odd. But if you watch The Last Dance, he was nasty, man. I mean, he grew up. He had I think he grew up in like Wyoming or something weird like that on a ranch.
Yeah.
But he was nasty. All right, we're talking too much about Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson's number 10 on your list. On my list, he did not make my top 10 or my honorable mention. So we'll let it go there. But if you guys are looking for a Phil Jackson card, his PSA 10 is just preposterously low pop. It's pop 4. Card Ladder's got it at 28,000 on the predicted value. It's got it at 14,000 on the grade ratio. I think really the sweet spot card that everybody could go out and chase if they really wanted to put Phil in their collection is probably this PSA 9 you're looking at on the screen. That card's up 120% over the last 2 years, right? So we're in that era where, the hobby's crashing, we're dead, we're dying, everything's going down. This Phil Jackson card, and even the last year, I think everybody would agree, all hell's breaking loose on a lot of these cards. Phil's down 14%. He's down a few $100. It's not the end of the world, So Phil's affordable. He's kind of steadied the ship, and he's been a pretty consistent, steady vintage card. So that's your number 10 card. Okay, go ahead. Let's go with your number 9 card.
Well, who's your number 10 card?
Well, are we going to do it that way? Okay, fine. Let's do my number 10 card. My number 10 card is here he is. It's Moses Malone, right? It's the 1975 Moses Malone. Let me pop it up here. Where's Moses on your list, Josh?
Honorable mention.
Okay.
Only because I went to the same school as him, so.
Did you really? So my dad, I'll never forget, Moses Malone was like this mythical Paul Bunyan, like the Black Paul Bunyan, right? To me, because I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, right? And so back in the day, they used to have the Indiana All-Stars versus the Kentucky All-Stars. And they used to play a game, and it was a really big deal because those are kind of the two of the blue blood basketball states back in the day. And I grew up in Kentucky. So Kentucky would play Indiana, and my dad tells a story where Moses Malone, the first 3 shots of the game, he jumped up and caught people's shot and goaltended it and handed it right back to him. 3 straight possessions, kind of an exhibition game, right? So it wasn't the end of the world, but just to intimidate them and say, hey, no more. You're not going to put anything in this basket for the rest of this game. So Moses Malone is on my list. He is, along with Olajuwon, Josh, I think Moses Malone is probably one of the most underrated basketball players that ever lived. He wasn't super well spoken. He wasn't real photogenic, energetic, or kind of one of those, good camera guys. Mm-hmm. And so I think that played into it, sort of a Kawhi Leonard aspect to his career like that. But arguably the greatest offensive rebounder that ever lived, one of the greatest rebounders that ever lived. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he won back-to-back MVPs. Let's check on that, Josh. But that's a big deal, and that doesn't happen a lot. He was a Finals MVP, 3-time MVP, right? So he's got Jokic beat, and he's got Giannis beat. He's got a lot of people beat when it comes to 3 MVPs. That's a lot. 13-time All-Star, 6-time rebound champ. Obviously won a title and was the MVP of that. 2 times All-Defensive, and he's in the NBA top 75. So Moses is my number 10. He's on your honorable mention. He doesn't check enough boxes for you. The Moses card, I think that is like kind of affordable is that PSA 9. It's less than $1,000. It's pop 364. Over the last 2 years, it's up 110%. So it's just about doubled, So, but an affordable card nonetheless. Anything? You got any thoughts on Moses?
No, it was great, but didn't that card, that PSA 10, sold for a boatload last year, right?
Well, here's what, and that's a whole episode we could have on that.
Yes.
But look, brace yourself. Watch what this PSA 10 did, and I still don't think these 2 sales were real. But
I don't either.
10 has popped 36. Okay, look at that chart, Josh.
That makes no sense.
This card went 12,000, and then 5 months later, 99,000, and then 1 month later, 90,000. And then 1 month later, 20,000. I'm not buying it. I know these are vetted or whatever by Card Ladder. I can't imagine that. I don't think
it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense. And this wasn't during the bubble of 2021, Josh. This was March of 2022. This is a year after the 2021 spike bubble, whatever you want to call it. So
and it's staying flat for such a long time. All of a sudden, there's a huge spike. I don't know. Where did it sell? Would it sell on eBay or where did it sell?
Well, one was PWCC. Let's see if we go look at View All Sales, another cool feature Card Ladder. So PWCC Weekly, 96,000. And it was, now to be fair, it was a PWCC sticker, so eye appeal, all that good stuff. So premium copy, right? But it's pop 36. It's not like it's pop 1 or 3 or 4. Then it sold for 90 on Robert Edwards auction, which, whatever, I've never been there. I know it exists.
They're great. They're the best.
And then March 13th to May 19th, Josh, that's 2 months. April, May, that's 2 months. That's 60 days later. It sells for $74,000 less. I don't know. Something doesn't seem right there.
Nope.
I think these 2 are the anomaly, and the 20 is about right. But it also sold for $102,000 in the same PWCC Weekly. There were 2 copies. One went for 102, and one went for 96 in the same weekly auction. Not Premier, weekly, right? In the weekly auction, there's a 6-figure Moses Malone card and then a 96 kicker right behind it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy story. That was a crazy time in the hobby. But again, that wasn't in 2021. That was in 2022. All right, enough about Moses. What's number 9 on your list?
One of my favorite players of all time, because he has the coolest nickname, is the Iceman, George Gervin.
Mm-hmm.
Gervin is one of only, I believe, 4 players to lead the league in scoring more than 5 times, and the other people are Jordan. I used to have the stat memorized. I don't remember it, but the Iceman was just so smooth, so great at scoring. One of the best, I think, of vintage cards of all time, vintage players, and I think he has to have a spot in the top 10 if we're doing vintage cards. His rookie is 74 tops.
There's a decent chance he was coked out of his mind when he was setting those.
For sure, a decent chance. I'd give you, even odds that he probably did.
Is it fair to say that like 80% of the NBA was doing coke between the years 1975 and like 1982?
Oh my God, I think so, probably, right?
And look, and that's why we owe, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. No spoiler alerts, but we'll talk about it later. But I think Bird and Magic saved the NBA, right? I think they saved it from that there was this perception that it was just a bunch of cokehead, guys who didn't give a damn about anything. We're getting paid too much money. And then Bird and Magic came in and they saved the league, man. And they transitioned us and turned it into, a TV masterpiece. And then they transitioned us over to the GOAT and Jordan. And then the rest is history. And it is what it is today. But I like your Gervin call. He would be, he's my honorable mention, and he would be probably somewhere around 12, 13 on my list if I had to choose. One of the greatest, Magic Johnson, Air Jordan, Iceman. Amazing nicknames, right? There's some great nicknames out there. You got to put Iceman, George Gervin probably in your top 5 nicknames in the history of NBA basketball. 12 times All-Star. Again, 75th anniversary team, and that's with never playing defense on a single possession of his entire life. His theory was, score as many as you want. I'm going to score more. I did my job, and don't worry about winning. Iceman's 70 years old, man. 70 years old, and was born in Detroit, Michigan. So, one of many incredible players that were born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. So Iceman's yours. Number 9 on my list is Elgin Baylor. Here's a guy who I think is overlooked in the hobby. It's his 1961 Fleer, and this is going to be a repeating theme in this video, Josh, in this pod we're doing right now. First of all, that's a beautiful looking PSA 8 on your screen there. Like, I appeal that is bananas, right? It's really good. Maybe a little diamond cut at the top, but damn, those borders are pretty good, which is rare for 61 Fleer. And the color looks good. It's got a hell of a lot of print dots down here. It looks like he's got some kind of, new age COVID or something like that with a bunch of white print dots all over him. But eye appeal is still great. Luckily, we have the Los Angeles Laker giraffe on the card up there in the pink basketball.
Great image.
About that. Neither one of us are old enough to know what the hell was going on with that. But what does the giraffe have to do with Lakers? I don't know.
Giraffes drink from lakes? I don't know.
I don't know. I know that they were called the Lakers because they were in Minneapolis back, before they were in Los Angeles, and that's the land of 1,000 lakes or something like that, right?
Minnesota, 10,000 lakes.
10,000 lakes, 10,000, a million, something. There's a lot of lakes there. So that's why they're called the Lakers. And then they moved to, LA and they kept the name, sort of like the Utah Jazz used to be in New Orleans. That's why they were the Jazz, right? The heart of jazz. And then they moved to Utah. They kept the name, which is kind of weird, but some people like it. Some people don't. Anyway, so I got Elgin Baylor on there. Elgin Baylor was an absolute animal. He was kind of ahead of his time. He played the game with a little more flair than most people did in that era. What did we say? His rookie card was 61 Fleer, which is one of the greatest sets of all time. I've got his PSA 8 pulled up. It's the first kind of achievable card. Like if you look at his 9, Josh, it's a $24,000 card. It sold for $32,000 last time. It's only a pop 9. Only one sold in the last 2 years. So I don't really consider that attainable for most people. We may not see one for another 2 years. But PSA 8, you're going to see it. Here you go. In the last 2 years, it's sold 8 times for about $14,000. Again, this is not chump change, right? I'm not saying everybody can go out and grab one, but at least you could find one if you looked hard enough and you were patient enough. Usually it'll sell for maybe once every 3 or 4 months, something like that. So Pop 63, big time card, big time player. I've got him pulled up. Hall of Famer, NBA 75th anniversary team. We're going to keep hearing that regularly. 11-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA. That is something special. That's more All-NBAs than like a Steph Curry and guys like that. As far as I know, I'll double check that, but I think I'm right on that. 10 times All-NBA is very unique. In fact, he went All-Star. He made the All-Star team, and he didn't begin in the NBA until he was 24 years old. He made every single All-Star team except 1 year. And I don't know what the hell was wrong with him there. He had to have some kind of injury because he was averaging 25, 30, 35, 38, 34, 25, 27. Then he averaged 16 in only 65 games. So I'm thinking he was nursing some kind of injury. And then he wrapped up his career 26, 26, 25, 24. And then 10 and 11, he ran into horrible injuries those last 2 years. So he only had about a true 12-year career, Josh. And he was not part of that historic Laker team that set the all-time wins record with Jerry West and Wilt and Gail Goodrich because he quit 9 games into that season of one of the greatest teams that was ever assembled. Can you imagine if they had a prime Elgin Baylor on that team?
It would lose.
That would have been off the charts and nuts. But so his career ended a little bit too early. But, man, his prime years, they stack up pretty good because when he was getting you 30 and 35 and 38 and 34, he was also getting you 16, 20, 18, and 14 rebounds. And this is not the 50s, right? This is in the 60s and the early 60s and mid 60s. That's a lot of rebounds for a guy who's only, 6'5", 225?
Yeah.
Who's 5 that gets that many rebounds. I mean, that's like Barkley, right? Rodman.
Right.
Anyway, so that's my number 9. Who's your number 8, Josh?
Baylor. Baylor was my number 8. So.
Oh, good. Okay, so we don't have to talk about that. Baylor's your number 8, so we'll move on to my number 8. My number 8 comes from the exact same set, and it's Oscar. And I pulled up the wrong card. So let's pull up 1961 Fleer. Oops.
It's number 2036. Number 36.
Yeah, it'll pull up.
And those cards are tough because a lot of those cards in the 60s had a lot of printing. They called snow, those white dots all over the card. So, yeah, finding that anything above a 7 or an 8's got it. 7's a high.
Yeah, there you go. And so look at the bottom left of that card. That's nuts, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You see stuff like that when you get back into the 60s and late 50s and stuff like that. Your 57 tops, your 61 Fleer. But, he played for the Cincinnati Royals, which later became, I think, the Sacramento Kings, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So here's Oscar's rookie card number 36, the same historic set as Elgin Baylor, same set as Wilt, same set as, Jerry West, go down the list. It's one of the greatest sets of all time with,
for sure,
a bevy of amazing rookie cards. And it's not a big set either. It's really not a big checklist.
No.
But it just, there was that gap from 57 to 61. So that's kind of like the 86 Fleer. It's kind of like the 2012 Prism. You got the extra rookie class. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of regional cards between 57 and 61 that are awesome, extremely rare, and never come up. I don't want to get into it because I'm gonna get angry. But there's a lot of them that I've had. I don't have them anymore, and I shouldn't have ever got rid of them.
Yeah,
it's possible to find. But the reason that set is so popular. Fleer did their retro version of this in '98, the Fleer 61 set, and then they made the refractor parallel to it, where the cards are numbered out of 61. And those are extremely popular. The top is a refractor, and the bottom is a black and white photo. Those cards are amazing. An uncut sheet sold last night in Golden. I was going after it. I got blown out of the water.
Wait! An uncut sheet of the 61 vintage, serial number to 61.
Yeah, 98 Fleer, the 98 Fleer retro. Yeah.
Yeah, but serial numbered.
Yep, each one of them had the stamp on it because they weren't cut yet. So it just says out of 61. So
it doesn't have the numerator. Right. Oh, okay. I was curious. Okay.
It went for I think 26,000 with juice.
Are you serious?
I was high on it the entire week. I'm going to win this, and it went from 1,000 to 10,000 in 5 minutes.
Tell us your max bid. My
max bid was 10. I was in it for 10.
Oh, so close, Josh. So close.
I was so upset. I was I'm going to get it for 10. No way. And then I just got killed.
Yeah, so, and then it went all Moses Malone on you.
It went Moses Malone on me. I didn't want to watch it. I'm oh man.
Yeah.
And then I just saw it this morning.
So look, everybody knows he was Mr. Triple Double before Westbrook. Yeah. Westbrook broke his records. Did that have an effect on his card values, man? Honestly, Josh, I don't know, man. But look, here's what I want to show you. Here's his PSA 8. It's pop 108. It's down 50%. We've seen some of these cards are going up over the last 2 years. Oscar's down 50% in PSA 8. Look at this. PSA 7. He's down 71%.
Wow.
PSA 6, 79%.
Huh.
I don't say go buy very often, but damn, man, that's a historic set. It's a pretty safe player. Yeah. He's an NBA 75th greatest. If there was a 50, he'd be in the 50 for sure. If there was a 40, he might be in the 40 as well. So. I don't think he won any titles. Did he win any titles? I don't think he won any titles. So that might have something to do with him. You know how everybody is with rings and crap. No, he did. He won this. Oh, what am I saying? He won the Bucks title, right? Mm-hmm. With Kareem. So he was a beta. Obviously, we're going to give Kareem the alpha for that team.
Yeah.
He was always the alpha just about. But yeah, I mean, what am I saying? I feel ashamed and embarrassed to be a Bucks fan. I totally blanked on that. I'm thinking Sacramento. Of course, he didn't win anything there, but 11 times All-NBA, Rookie of the Year, MVP, 1 MVP, top 75, 12 All-Stars, just absolute behemoth, and then he had that stretch where he averaged, a triple-double. And it was right near his rookie year. So he only had one season where he averaged a triple-double, one full season. But if you add up his first 3 seasons, it averages out to a triple-double. And so he's coming in the league. Can you imagine if John Morant came in the league or Cade Cunningham or one of these fellas came in the league and averaged a triple-double their rookie season?
I mean, Ayo was close, but yeah.
Who was?
Ayo was close.
Yeah, I mean, look, and Shaq came in and had a historically nut job rookie year, and so did David Robinson. But To average a triple-double, like, I think that would be
nuts.
Oh my God, those cards would go bonkers in ultra modern collector.
To the moon, to the moon emoji.
That's it. Yes, that's it. So Oscar Robertson is my number 8. Who's your number 7?
Robinson was my 7.
Robertson was your 7. Yeah. Okay, so he's your 7. He's my 8.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on to my number 7. My number 7, we're in the same set again. Yeah. Jerry West. I've got Jerry West ahead of Oscar Robertson because of the giraffe on the card. Any card that has a giraffe.
I think it's cool. It's cool.
No, I've got him on. I've got him ahead because of his post-basketball career. Just like you had Phil sneak into your top 10, I give a lot of weight and a lot of credence to what Jerry West has meant to the league post-NBA.
For sure.
And he's obviously the logo, and I know there's been talk about changing the logo. God, I hope they never do that, right? I hope they don't change it to Jordan or whatever. No, the Jordan brand, again, nobody's a bigger Jordan fan than you and me, right? So we're biased. But, like, I don't want the Jordan – not only could they never get that right, like copyright and, infringement and trademark and all that crap, but it means something totally separate, right? It just means something different. Jerry West as the NBA logo just means history. It means stability. It means consistency. It means, longevity. And that's why they call them the logo. And that's why, ultra modern cards, the most popular ultra modern card in the world is the logo man. And that every card that hits 6 figures, that's an ultra modern card that has a patch and an auto, has Jerry West on the card as well. So it's for that reason, I got Jerry West ahead of Oscar Robertson. I think they were pretty comparable as players. I know they called Jerry West Mr. Clutch because he hit a big, half-court shot in one of the finals games, but he did get his ass whipped a lot more than he won. But he was on that one Laker team that went bananas in 72 and won the title. So I've got Jerry West there. Looking at his card, I've got all-time pulled up. All-time, he's up, 1,700%. That doesn't really mean a lot. He's like, so in contrast to what we just looked at with Oscar Robertson, Josh, Jerry West cards are up 150%. So we just looked at Oscar Robertson, same set, same kind of grades, relatively the same player, down 79%. And then we look at Jerry West, up 150%. So I got to believe that hinges primarily on beginning price point. And so that's the thing, is you always got to look at all these data points in between. But his PSA 8 to pop 155, it's doable. It's a $16,000 card. At the highest, it hit $35,000. I'm assuming that's right just after the first quarter of 2021. So Jerry West is my 7. Who is your? Are we on to 6? Who's your 6?
Bob Cousy, just one of the early not superstars, but early superstars of the game. I would call it then.
First point guard of note, right? As far as I know.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, was one of the leader in assists for 8 years in a row. He, he had a new way of handling the ball, new way of dishing it out. I think he had won 6 titles with the Lakers, with the Celtics. Whoa, sorry.
Careful.
I know.
You get hate mail.
I know. I'm gonna get hate mail for that one.
Yeah.
Celtics. So yeah, I mean, he was just a great player in college, great player in the NBA, and I mean, he definitely top 75. I think top 50 of all time. So
let me ask you this question.
Yeah,
because this has been talked about a lot by modern players. They've been talking about stuff like this, and this really came up and got real heated when they did this NBA 75th anniversary team, and guys like Cousy were in it, and guys like Dolph Shays and Pettit and guys like that, right? These are guys that dominated their era, that put up crazy numbers in their era, that won multiple rings. The league was much smaller, so I devalue the value of a ring in the 50s and 60s a lot more than today. That's just me, right? I think the NBA, when there's 30 teams trying to win it and you win it, I think that's more impressive than when there was 8 or 10, right? Which Russell and Cousy, those guys did. But I'm speaking more about like basketball ability. And I know it's not fair because science is different, training's different, technology's different, just work ethic and threshold. And like these guys were freaking carrying luggage in the off season to feed their families, right? The basketball wasn't even feeding their families. So they had full-time jobs sometimes. And they were smoking in the locker room at halftime. And I'm not talking about marijuana like they do today. They were actually smoking cigarettes.
Right.
And if you put Bob Cousy in the NBA today, is he the worst player in the NBA?
No, I think, if he had athletic ability then, I think he adapts, and I think he's John Stockton today.
I'm about to stop this right now.
He's John Stockton, big assist guy, could move, could handle the ball.
You don't. Well, I'm just going to tell you, I've seen Bob Cousy highlights, and I'm going to get hate mail here. I've seen Bob Cousy highlights. There is no way in hell Bob Cousy would do anything with me. And I was a 6'4", 195-pound NAIA point guard, right? So I was a little small college point guard. Bob Cousy would have his hands full with me. You can't put him in the NBA now. Just like you can't put Pettit in there, just like you can't put, all these little guys from the 50s and 60s. Like, they can't do it.
Yeah, but there were 6 NHL teams for the longest time, and some of those guys are the greatest players of all time. They would
resume. I'm with you. Yeah. When you look at this up here, Josh, look at where my cursor is. Yeah, that absolutely. And that's how we have to measure these players. But I'm asking you to take prime Bob Cousy down here, right? Yeah. Keep in mind, the dude was never shot 40% from the field.
No.
That's a problem when you're 6'1" and you can't jump. Right. And you never dribbled the ball with your left hand. You can't put dudes like this in the NBA today. They would get absolutely eaten alive and demolished. So I think anyway, what I'm trying to say is when we talk about the greatest players ever, and we're ranking our greatest rookie cards ever, we are talking about what these guys accomplished against their peers in their era, right? It's not – I'm never going to say Bob Pettit could play basketball with Amari Stoudemire, right? Or Yao Ming or anything like – or Andre Drummond, for God's sakes, right? He would get absolutely annihilated. We're comparing these guys against players in their era, and I think that's the only way you can do it.
I agree.
If we've got a pickup game out back and everybody's in their prime, nobody's picking Bob Cousy. They're just not, right? They're just not. I'm sorry.
You're going to hate my next one then.
Oh, I'm going to love your next one is, oh my God, I don't even want to guess. Okay, so Cousy was your number, what, 6?
Yeah.
Okay, my number 6 is the Doc. I got Doc number 6.
All right.
He's the epitome of class. Classiest NBA player of all time. He kind of ushered in a new era of style. People want to know what he was wearing to and from the games. People hung on every word. He bridged the gap between African Americans and white fans, right? And so he was the ABA. He was the face of the ABA. He won a title in the ABA with the Squires. And then when he moved over to the NBA, that was a really, really big deal. Speaking of great nicknames, Iceman is good, but the Doctor, I mean, come on. The Doctor's got to be close to number 1 with Magic and Air Jordan, right? Those are probably in my top 3 in some order. But the Doctor, I remember as a kid, take 2 of these and call me in the morning, and he hands them, the Doc Converse, all the Doctors. I've got his PSA 9 pulled up. The one thing he couldn't do is shoot a basketball. He's a terrible shooter, freakishly athletic, especially off one foot, preposterously athletic off one foot. The dunk that he did where he rocked the baby and threw Michael Cooper into the rim, back in the early 80s would be Sports Center Play of the Year today.
For sure. And
you can't say that very often, right? I mean, if you go back and you look at old dunk contests, and his dunk contests were not all that impressive, but, the games, like we just talked about, the games changed so much. He was doing things a decade before other people could do those same types of things. If you haven't seen it, and you probably have, there's an amazing documentary called The Doctor that was put out by ESPN about him. And, he lost his brother. His brother passed away while he was at UMass. And he is just, man, I can't say it enough. He's the epitome of class. I think so many players who played in the 80s and even early 90s, especially African-American players, really looked up to the Doctor, the way he carried himself, the way he communicated, the way he branded himself, right? He was way ahead of his time. He really, if it wasn't for Magic and Bird, he would have been the one who ushered us into the Jordan era. It's just that everything lined up so perfectly for Magic and Bird. So I love the Doc. Again, historically, I don't have him in my top 15. He's probably 20 to 25 range. But that's based on resume. That's not based on his historical and cultural impact on the game. As far as that goes, he's right up there with the best of them.
Oh, for sure.
But let's look at the doc. That's about I know there's a giant Mount Everest in the middle, but over the last 2 years, he's down 2% with 40 sales in a PSA 9. So he's held pretty steady. And PSA 8 down 25%. Not a huge card, and it's a high pop card, especially for vintage cards. 986, Josh. So if you're going to go get a doc, you can go get a PSA 8 doc card out there anytime you want to. Right? 205 of them have sold in the last 24 months.
They'll be at the National for sure.
Yeah, you'll see tons of that at the National. Will we see a 10 at the National? I don't know. Let's see what a 10's worth. Oh, it's not even in card ladder. So there's your answer. I think it's a pop 1. Am I crazy on that?
No.
I might be crazy, but I swear I thought I heard that Doc 1972 Topps rookie card, PSA 10's a pop 1. And then from there, you go to PSA 9, which is pop 160. So how about that for condition sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
Have the pop 1. Okay, so that was my number 6. Who's your number 5?
Kareem. Lou Alcindor.
Lou Alcindor, right? Lou Alcindor, now known as Kareem. So let me pull Kareem up here. Tell me about it. Tell me why. Tell me what you know about this card. Tell me what you know about that sweet green, turtleneck short sleeve he's wearing with no emblem on it.
Love it. I believe they didn't have the rights to use the logos. Unless I'm thinking of a different card, but I don't think they could use the logo on those. But I mean, he was coming out of college, right? I think he won a championship every year at UCLA.
Every year. They couldn't play as freshman, if I recall, right? So he only won 3, but it was because he wasn't allowed to play as a freshman, I think. I might be wrong.
I don't know the exact specs, but I think you're right. And I know he played a game in Chicago, at Chicago Stadium in the middle of the winter. UCLA was in town for next. They were playing, I forget who it was, but it was like worst snowstorm in Chicago history. And like people, lined up outside to see him play. Because even as a college senior, he was, known all over the country. Like one of the first, highly touted college players to be drafted. I mean,
same thing. Look, it started at Power Memorial High School in New York, right? At Power Memorial, everybody in America at a time pre-internet, pre-cell phone, pre-social media, pre-everything, pre-national newspaper,
right?
Everyone in America had heard about him because he was the next what? He was the next Wilt.
Right.
And so he was doing things that Wilt was doing. So that was the transition back then. In the era of the world's greatest big men, Wilt and Russell were these two epic giants that battled in the 60s. And they ushered in the Kareem era. And then Kareem and Wilt overlapped a little bit right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's Kareem is special. I think a lot of younger collectors don't understand exactly what his stats and accomplishments are. They've just kind of, I bet this, if you ask the average 30 or 35-year-old who had a better career, Kobe or Kareem, I bet you 90% of them would say Kareem, and 100% of those 90% are wrong. Right. It's not close. Go look at what Kareem did. And, the one knock against Kareem is that he put up a lot of his numbers and his accolades and his awards in an era where it was probably the worst era of NBA basketball. Would you say the 70s kind of was the worst era of NBA basketball? Because if we're looking at our list and, we're working through our list here, you got Moses Malone, you got Gervin,
right?
You got Pete. It just doesn't have the same star power as the 60s or the 80s, 90s, 2000s. You know what I mean? What do you think about the 70s, the NBA basketball in the 70s? It was a dying brand.
It wasn't great. I mean, it wasn't really that good. I mean, it was the Knicks won a couple, the Sixers won, I believe, and it's basically like the forgotten decade. Like,
like if you said, hey, who was the dynasty of that? Well, here's the other problem: is ABA.
Right. Taking away.
This fledgling league showed up with this colorful basketball and, the strippers at halftime and giveaways and all these gimmicks and all this stuff. And, they pulled some players, man. I mean, they pulled some players away from the NBA. I mean, there was some superstar talent in the ABA with Dan Issel and Artis Gilmore and George Gervin and Dr. J. So that matters, So Kareem dominated his league, and you can only play who they put in front of you. And, what people don't understand, he's a 6-time MVP. Nobody's had more. 2-time finals MVP. He was 11 times all defensive. People thought he was soft because they saw him shoot, the finesse skyhook all the time. But it's not his fault. He was taller, and he created the most unstoppable shot in the history of basketball, right? I mean, people talk about Jordan's fadeaway. Jordan's fadeaway was nothing compared to Kareem's skyhook.
You can't stop it. No.
I mean, Again, still the all-time leading scorer, 19 All-Star teams, 19. That's LeBron's pushing on that, right? He's chasing that,
right?
But Kareem, Karl Malone, LeBron, these guys, longevity is their friend. Longevity is going to be what we'll remember these guys for. Extended greatness for an amazing duration. And the only difference between Kareem and Karl Malone and guys like that is dude's got 6 MVPs and he's got where's his title? 6 NBA titles. That's a lot of titles, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big deal. So right now, I'm just right at that point where I've got LeBron pushing Kareem to number 3 because I don't weight rings quite as much as most people. Where do you have Kareem on your all-time list, Josh?
Oh, I got to put him at top 5.
Yeah.
I put him at top 5. I mean,
for sure top 5. It's tough. Obviously, I think we both have Jordan 1, right?
Oh yeah. Michael Jordan, right?
Jordan 1, and then for me, it's still tough. Kareem and LeBron. It's not a ho hum no brainer. And part of that's just because I'm old, and I give a little more credit to these older guys than a lot of the younger people do. The one stat I keep looking at that LeBron separates himself is points accounted for. He's so far ahead of anybody. Points and assists.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. And he's like on another chart. Like you can have your chart and all those just group of people, and then LeBron's like on another whole chart. Like it's not even remotely close. Like it's a record that will never be touched ever.
Not as long. Yeah. I put LeBron too. It's no brainer for me. It's like.
And look, these are the type of arguments where you have a couple of beers and sit in a bar and argue for like 5 hours just on one argument, Kareem or LeBron, or I guess if you wanted to, LeBron and Jordan or LeBron and Kareem or whatever. But so Kareem was number 5 on your list.
Yeah,
Kareem was number 2 on my list, Josh. Because I think he's probably the 3rd greatest player of all time, and LeBron doesn't have a vintage card. So I've got Kareem number 2 on my list. Of all of the names that we're going to talk about on these lists, his name is number 1 as far as NBA basketball resume. And there's only one reason he's not card number 1, and we're going to get there in a second. I don't want to spoil it. So number 5 on my list, I'm not going to talk about it too long. I think I know where this is going to be on your list because even though you're younger than me, you act older, is George Mikan. I've got George Mikan number 5 on my list. So let's pull it up. It's only because he was first. That's it. I don't think he was better than Pettit. I don't think he was better than Wilt. I don't think he was better than Russell. I don't think he was better than any of the names on the list at all. But he is number 5 on my list. The card is just. I mean, God, I can't even look at the card. He's wearing a belt, man. He's wearing a belt.
I love it. It's a great card. He's got glasses on. He's playing NBA basketball with glasses. That's amazing.
Yeah. I get it. So 12,600 for PSA 6. This card. Let's see what this card's done over the past couple of years.
Up sold last night.
Down 7%. PSA 9 up 150%. PSA 8 up 100%. And so those are rare cards. We've all heard about the PSA 10. It's a pop 1. Maybe that's what I was thinking of, not the doc, but it's a PSA. PSA 10 is a pop 1, and Card Ladder has it as about a little over 3 million. You want to go 50-50 with me?
You got it. You take an unendorsed third-party check.
Okay. You write the first check, and then I'll just owe you for the other one.
Got it. No problem. I mean,
so that's
last night.
I think 5 on my list. Again, I don't think he belongs in the same category as the other 10 on my list as far as basketball resume. He was just first. He was the first great big man. He was the first NBA superstar, and he was, he won everything. He just dominated his era. I mean, you can only play in the era that you're born in, and he was born in it, and he dominated it. I don't know what else to say. So. Who's number 4 on your list? Anything? What else? You got something else to say about Mikan? Because he's number 1.
The card's awesome in terms of like top vintage rookie cards. It's just an awesome card. It's my number 1 just because it's hard. It's rare. It's hard to find in a higher grade, and I just think it's a great image. I love it. I think it's a great card. I've got a PSA 2. So
I was going to ask you. You have a PSA 2.
Yeah.
Let's pull up the PSA 2. $6,000 card. Damn.
Oh my
God. That's crazy. And pretty steady only 2 of them have sold over the last 2 years. And it's steady 5,700, 5,600. I mean, that card's not going anywhere, right? Mikan's legacy is what it is. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any worse. And that's something that I like to talk about when people are like, at some point, people are going to forget about Moses Malone. People are going to forget about Bird and Magic. Their cards are going to go down. They're not. You know why? Because I never saw Mikan play. You never saw Mikan play. Guess who else we didn't see play? Honus Wagner. or Josh Gibson
or Bob Cousy.
Or Bob Cousy or Satchel Paige or fill in the blank. I didn't see these guys play, but I know where they belong, and I've read about them, and I've heard old people talk about them. It's like Roman emperors. We never got to see them, rule the Roman Empire, but we sure as hell know their names and we know who they are. They've lived for thousands of years. So I don't think George Mikan's name is going to be erased from the annals of NBA history. I shouldn't say annals of NBA history.
It's a family show. Yeah.
I don't want that to get misconstrued. Right. That's our other show. So anyway, so Mikan's number 1 on your list. He's number 5 on my list just because I don't think he's quite there as a player. But I recognize how special that card is as, the first real vintage rookie card. That is the first mainstream set, right?
It is. A Beckett 2 sold for $5,200 last night.
A Beckett 2.
Yep. And then a PSA 1 sold for $3,300.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that's one of the rare cards where you can say, look, anything in a slab is relevant. I mean, it just is. I mean, PSA, BVG, SGC, if it's a 1, it's freaking relevant, man.
His Scott's potato chip card is 1,000 times rarer and awesome. It never comes up.
Is it more valuable? It's not going to be more valuable.
A lot more because it's it's a regional potato chip card. You never find it. It's from Minnesota after they won the championship. It's like a pencil drawing with blue. I think it's fantastic. They should have it in card ladder.
We may see it at the National.
If you see one in the National, you got to buy it because they never.
I'll find you. Yeah, I'll come find you. Well, I'm not buying it because no, I'm just not. But I'll come find you and I'll let you buy it. All right, card number 4 on your list. What's card number 4 on your list?
Card number 4, I put Dr. J.
Okay, so we talked about Doc, right? Doc
for all the reasons you said. For all the reasons you said.
Yeah, for all the reasons I just said. Yeah, he's everything, anything and everything, and he bridged the gap. He brought ABA, NBA together and still continued to dominate and won a title. I think I might be wrong, but if I recall, his Sixers team with Moses and Andrew Toney and Mo Cheeks and Bobby Jones was the only team in the 80s, only team to win a title during those years where the Lakers and Celtics were alternating titles, right? Is that right?
They beat the Celtics in the, I think it was a game 7.
Yeah.
Was it 7 games?
I can't remember.
It was 84, 85. Yeah, because I just watched that documentary about the Celtics and the Lakers.
Yep. And then so Celtics, Lakers, Sixers, and then that gave rise to the Pistons era, which was, Jordan's big hurdle that he had to get over. So, okay, Doc is your number 4. My number 4 is Bill Russell. My number 1 through 4 are entrenched, and they're probably never going to change. No one's ever going to be able to convince me otherwise, but my number 4 is Bill Russell, the 57 tops. I'll pull it up here on the screen for you guys. There it is. Pretty rare card in, PSA 8. It's $185,000 approximately, $200,000. I mean, that's a crazy card, right? That's like that's more than an 86 Fleer Jordan PSA 10. That's pushing PMG red, essential credentials type stuff, star rubies, So the world knows who Bill Russell was. He was obviously one of the greatest winners of all time. Certainly the greatest winner in his sport, in my opinion, throwing Phil Jackson and Robert Horry and Steve Kerr out, right? Because he was the alpha, like he was the player and the primary focal point and the reason. And what's funny is he scored a bit, he didn't shoot the ball well. He wasn't an offensive force, but he wanted it more. He worked harder. He's one of the most elite defenders if you compare him against players in his era, one of the most elite rebounders if you compare him against players in his era. So Bill Russell's just special. Everybody, when they think winning, they think Bill Russell. When they think just statistical, freakish dominance, they think Wilt Chamberlain, right? And that was the great dichotomy back then. So before there was Bird and Magic, there was Wilt and Bill, and it was the battle of 2 legendary big men. So I've got Bill Russell, number 4, 57 tops on my list. I don't have this card. I recently liquidated all of my vintage cards to kind of hit the reset button and focus on bigger vintage cards. So I had kind of a mid-grade Wilt and then a mid-grade Kareem or Lou Alcindor card. And then I shouldn't have done this, but I sold my PSA 9 Bird Magic tops, 1980 tops. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just held that because I can't get any better on that because the PSA 10 is like $700,000. So I've got to put this card in my collection at some point, even though I'm a Wilt over Bill Russell guy. Are you Russell or Wilt if you had to choose?
Wilt.
Okay. Then you and me are together on that one for once. Yeah. For once, you and I are right on the same page on that one.
A squirrel, what they say.
Yeah, you're a squirrel from the nut every once in a while, right? Or as Billy Hoyle in White Men Can't Jump said, even the sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while, right?
That's right.
Once a day. Well, here's my take, and this is the way that I usually end arguments about Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain is when people say, well, Russell won blah, 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 and Wilt Chamberlain only won blah, blah, blah. I say, okay, why don't we switch their teams in 1957, and Wilt Chamberlain would have 15 rings.
Right.
Then that kind of ends the argument. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way that I like to end the argument with Steph Curry and Jordan. You want to put Steph Curry near Jordan? Okay, give Jordan Steph Curry's teammates. It would not be pretty, and he would have 47 rings. So
he never lose.
I always play the let's switch teams game, right? So,
right.
Like Kevin McHale versus Barkley or Karl Malone, just switch their teams and tell me that Barkley and Karl Malone wouldn't have multiple rings. They would. It's just the way it is, man. So it's a team sport. It's not tennis. It's not golf. So, okay. So who's your that was my number 4. Who was your number 4?
Dr. J.
Yeah. So who's your number 3?
Wilt.
Okay.
Just for who he is, this legendary NBA, one of the most legendary players of all time. What did he average? I think he averaged 30 points and I think 20 rebounds for his career.
Yep, I'm going to pull it up because and again, I've done videos and I could do a whole video on Wilt Chamberlain. I know all of his stories. I read his book, A View from Above. I know about Overbrook High School, what he did, and he played pro basketball under a fake name when he was a high school player, right? And he dominated, right? And they write articles in the paper about this guy, and I can't remember the fictitious name, but everything about him, Josh, like literally I could do a video on the top 50 rumors / facts about Wilt Chamberlain, and you can try to figure out what's true and what's fake. But some of the stuff that's absolutely true sounds fake. Never fouled out of an NBA game. One season he played more than 48 minutes per game. Right, because he played overtime and never sat out a second.
His pseudonym was George Marcus.
That's it, George Marcus.
I just looked it up. I didn't know after him. So
it was George Marcus. And look, another great nickname: Wilt the Stilt, the Big Dipper, Dippy Dip, the Load, Big Musty. I don't know what that's about. He probably doesn't like that one. The Record Book is awesome.
Yes.
Wilty Whip and the Whipper. I've never heard those, but I've heard the Big Dipper and Wilt the Stilt. And the Record Book. Great names. He played 14 years. Always much maligned for his poor free throw shooting. If he shot 70%, he'd be the all-time leading scorer from the free throw line. Look at his numbers. Everything that's in bold on your screen, he led the league.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about load management, not with this dude.
No way.
Yeah. So, he's famous when he came in his rookie year and averaged 37 and 27. Next year, 38 and 27. The next year, that's the year, right? That's the year that everybody talks about, 50 and 25.
That's insane.
What the hell? I don't even know what to say. So here's the one thing that people forget is that they didn't keep track of blocks, right? Until I can't remember the season. It was maybe the 1970 season, 69, something like that is when they started keeping track of blocks. And they say that if they had kept track of blocks, they've gone back and kind of reconstructed it with some backwards math. Mm-hmm. And they think that there were seasons where he might have had 65, 70 triple doubles, Josh. Let that sink in, dude.
Right.
For a 7'1" dude, right?
Right.
And then one of the greatest actors of all time, right? From Conan the Destroyer.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
Top 5 movie of all time.
Like I haven't seen that. I've seen that once. I have not gone back to rewatch.
It's an okay movie. You know what to expect when you see a Conan movie, but Wilt literally makes Arnold Schwarzenegger look like his grandson in the movie. Right? It's unbelievable. So story after story after story. We got to do another video on rumors. I'll say something and you say fact or rumor and you try to guess if it's true or not. We'll do another episode just on Wilt Chamberlain. But I don't want to take him all day. Wilt's number 3 on my list too, Josh, which is hard for me to say because he's probably my favorite vintage player. But this is no slight against Wilt, but cards number 1 and 2 are both epic and legendary. So let's move on to your number 2. Who's your number 2?
Bird Magic. One of the most iconic duos.
Oh, that's right. You got Mike in 1, don't you? Yeah. Okay. So you had Mike in 1. So you've got Bird Magic. Your Bird Magic is number 2. I'll let the cat out of the bag. Bird Magic is my number 1. It checks It checks one box that no other card in NBA vintage basketball collecting checks, and that is there's 3 people on the card, right? And 2 of them are both top 10 players that ever lived, and they're the 2 guys that saved the NBA, and they transitioned it and passed the torch. Black versus white, city versus rural, small Indiana State versus big Michigan State, college rivalry, East Coast versus West. I mean, dude, it's literally like if you made up a story and said, hey, I want to make up a story to save the NBA. Right. This is this exact story that you would make up, Josh.
And Larry probably was the best shooter, maybe the best shooter of all time. I mean,
yeah. And it's hard. You say that, and people are going to be like, this bald dude's an idiot, right? No. Because of Steph Curry and all that. But Larry Bird didn't grow up shooting 3-pointers. Do you think if Larry Bird, spent as much time training the 3-point shot, shooting off the dribble like Steph, you don't think he could have shot the ball like Steph? I think he probably could have. I don't know. That being said, I think Steph's the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. I'm sure you would agree, but it's only because of the era he played in. We don't know what Bird would or could have done.
Dominated. There's that story. He played the whole game with his opposite hand, just
left hand.
He could, and he still was still lights out.
Yeah. Right after Wilt Chamberlain, I'm not exaggerating. I think right after Wilt Chamberlain, the next most, legendary Paul Bunyan type folktales are told about Larry Bird.
Yes.
Because he was so unique. He was not an ounce athletic, right? He will dunk the ball, and you've seen some times where he got pissed off and dunked the ball, but played at his own pace, had a beautiful curly mullet. He wore green underwear instead of shorts. They were so short. It was horrible. It's tough to look at. White people should not wear all black shoes. It makes them look really slow. But I think Bird loved it. I think he's like, you think I'm slow now? Wait till you see how slow I look in these black shoes with white tube socks. I'll show you slow.
Legendary trash talker.
Oh, legendary trash talker. I mean, unquestionably legendary trash talker. And his numbers, again, people – he was a notch behind Magic in the winning column, right? Yeah. Both of them had legendary big threes, great teams, other Hall of Famers all over the place. The difference between Magic and Bird is Bird won 3 MVPs in a row. Yeah. And am I wrong? Is he the only person to ever do that? Did Kareem do it? I'm not sure if he did.
I don't believe so.
I can't remember. I know Moses won 3, but I don't think Moses won 3 in a row. I might be wrong. And I'm not sure if Kareem won 3 in a row. I think Bird's the only one to ever win 3 in a row. But the Hick from French Lick, the Great White Hope, and Larry Legend. Again, Larry Legend's right up there with Magic Johnson as the greatest nicknames of all time. Were you, obviously – if people are old enough, I mean, Lakers versus Celtics was a big deal, right? It was like it defined the 80s and saved basketball. What side of the fence were you on back then?
Oh, man, I like the Celtics only because I loved Boston Garden.
Yeah.
But that was because I like the Bruins. So there's a hockey connection there because the Bruins and the Celtics played in the same building. And I thought Boston Garden was cool as hell. So I rooted for the Celtics. And I loved Larry Bird. I thought he made great passes. He's like, I can play like this guy. There you go.
Man, look, he gave all of his hope, a slow white guy could play in the NBA. But what people forget is he was a 6'9", 220-pound slow white guy. That's different, right? You don't see 6'9", 220 walking around on the streets very often. So people forget he was a big-ass dude. And I've heard he was not 6'9". I've heard he was 6'10 and a half. So I've heard his height was a little bit underlisted in all of the NBA in historical accounts, but man, just ridiculous. From French Lick, Indiana, like in the summer months, he would just go mow his yard, right? He'd just go mow his yard, and that was his release. Had a really tough upbringing, really tough life. Mm-hmm. Everybody's heard about Bird. We're not going to talk about him anymore, but you've got Bird Magic second. I've got Bird Magic once. It's Bird, it's Magic's rookie card, and then you put another one of these top 10 type guys, Dr. J, right in the middle on a scoring leaders card, and it's incredible. We know about the PSA 10. It's recently been selling for $600, $700. Here's the last 2 years, right? Wow. 720, 550, 550, 513, 861, 800, 840, 660, man. It's a huge card. It's a pop 22. I don't anticipate I will ever own this card, but right behind the Jordan 86 Fleer, the 84 star 101 Jordan, I would put this card third for me before in PSA 10. I would put this card third before the LeBron RPA. That's me.
Well, yeah, me too. Yeah, I would too. But I mean, I don't like that card. But yeah, I mean, this card is awesome.
It's unique.
Three people have won 3 NBA titles and 3 NBA MVPs in a row. It was Russell, Wilt, and then Larry.
I should have known Russell would have done it, of course, yeah. And then Wilt, of course, yeah. I mean, Wilt was winning MVPs while, Russell was winning titles. So, yeah, I should have put those two together. So Moses never did it and Kareem never did it.
No.
Okay.
Not 3 in a row, no.
And then Bird did it in an era where Kareem and Magic were both trying to do it, right? So, and Jordan, right? And overlap with Jordan, early Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan's early part of his career.
That's right. Okay, so that was number 2 on your list. Number 1 on your list was Mikan.
Yeah.
And then number 1 on my list is Bird Magic. Number 2 on my list is Kareem. So we're pretty similar, except you made a terrible mistake and put Phil Jackson on your list. Other than that,
add a little spice to the show,
I like it. I love it. A couple of cards that we left out, all right, because there's going to be some guys who are super hyper, and I know you're huge into baseball vintage. You're pretty big into basketball vintage, but there's going to be guys out there that are like nutso about basketball vintage that are not going to be happy with us if we don't mention some of these other guys. So I'm going to mention them. Bob Pettit. Pettit's the only player to win a title, and he won it for the Hawks, the St. Louis Hawks, during the era of Wilt and Russell. So every other title went to Wilt or Russell, but Pettit won one during that era. Interesting fact, he sits right down from me, literally 2 seats over at LSU home basketball games. And I'm good friends with his son, who's a great dude. And this guy signs autographs to this day for people in the arena and gets tons of attention. He's an LSU legend. The all-time LSU team, by the way, I'll put up against anybody. It was Shaq, Pistol Pete, Bob Pettit. I mean, big-time players played at LSU. So Bob Pettit's a legend down here in this area of town in the state of Louisiana. So Bob Pettit's got to get a mention in there. His cards are criminally undervalued, by the way, considering what he did. A PSA 8 pop 46, it's only $3,700. That's insane. It's like Luka Silver was $9,000 a few years ago, and it was pop 2,000. Doesn't make any sense. Another one is Rick Barry, criminally undervalued as a player, incredible scorer, also one of the meanest MFers in the world. Not just basketball players. He's one of the meanest people in the world. He was so mean that he got kind of blackballed from the entire NBA just because he's mean as hell. But
his son wasn't very mean.
Filthy scorer. Had 2 kids play in the NBA. I can't remember if I know John Barry did. Brent Barry is a really good NBA player.
Yeah.
I can't remember if Scooter Barry played in the NBA, but he had at least 2 players play in the NBA.
Yeah.
So Rick Barry's there. His PSA 9, his PSA 10 is going to be a monster, I can tell you. Yeah, pop 87, $30,000 card, so that's no joke.
I love
but his PSA 9 you could go get for $3,300. It's a pop 52.
I love the logo. I love the graphics on that card. It's great.
It's pop 50. It's $3,300. That is a cool looking card with the baby blue in the background. But
$3,300.
New York Nets. I had no idea. I always identify Rick Barry with the Golden State Warriors, don't you?
Yeah.
But up 165% in PSA 9, and it's still only $3,300. It seems undervalued, right?
I think so. How much of that is the NBA not really doing a lot to connect the history of the game with current game? Like they do the 75th anniversary, but I mean, it seemed like it didn't get that much publicity, or they weren't marketing it that much. They don't really market the history of the game as much as like baseball or football. Like football does. Baseball, football when they hand out the trophy, they got like all the former players like on the field.
They handed them, and we used to have Bill Russell hand it to him in the NBA, right? And it was the Bill Russell Award for the NBA Finals MVP. But look at this, look at these accolades right here for Rick Barry. 12-time All-Star, won the title, right, with the Golden State Warriors in that weird, mid-70s era that we talked about. He was a steals champ, scoring leader, steals leader, MVP, All-Star Game MVP, Finals MVP, 4-time All-NBA. He was the ABA all-time team and NBA 75th, Josh. So he split that career up and was still all NBA top, 75th anniversary team and ABA all-time team, and clearly a first ballot Hall of Famer. He had 4 sons. I don't remember Canyon Barry. I just remember Brent, Drew. I thought Scooter Barry was his kid. Maybe it was a cousin or something, or nephew or something. Strange. Anyway, Filthy score, ridiculous. Averaged 35 points his second year in San Francisco, 34, 27, 29. Just put up bonkers numbers, dude, and was and just mean as snakes, So we won't want to forget about him. Who else? Pete Maravich. Did you put Pete on your list, or was he honorable mention?
Honorable mention. He just missed the list. If I wasn't trying to be cute with Phil Jackson, that Pistol Pete would have made it.
Yeah, I'm right there. Pistol Pete or Gervin would have snuck in my top 10. Real close, right there. Again, I left him off a list of obviously great LSU players. Bob Pettit, Shaq, Pistol Pete.
Lights out.
Yeah, Ben Simmons.
They've been a great team.
Big team. So Pistol Pete right here, PSA 8, super affordable. His cards are actually down a little bit over the last 2 years. And PSA 8, they're down. PSA 9 is way the hell up because it's a much lower pop. And, pop is everything now. So, but believe it or not, his PSA 7 is up 114%, but his PSA 8 is down 12%. These are the weird arbitrages in the hobby I don't understand. And I wish I didn't have a full-time job. I wish we weren't attorneys and we could go kind of digest information and really make moves. Because I love the investing aspect of the hobby. This is shit that doesn't make sense to me, Josh. Excuse my language, but it doesn't make sense to me. Why would a PSA 8 be down 13% and a PSA 7 is up 114%? It's not like a small difference, right? You know what I mean?
And more people willing to drop $1,500 for the card than they are $2,500. Maybe, I don't know. There's more of a market for the.
That's not that big a difference. You know what I mean? If cards in play at 14, it's in play at 24, I would think, for most people. Maybe I'm just taking that for granted.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Weird stuff, man. Weird stuff. Artist Gilmore is on my and he barely made the honorable mention list. Same. He's really tall. He split his career as well. Rebounded the hell out of the ball. His cards are super affordable in a 9, not so much in a 10. $27,000 for a guy that a lot of young people probably have never heard of, but he was a great player. Played with the Kentucky Colonels, which is my hometown team back in Kentucky. Bill Walton, we didn't talk about. I'm about to do a really cool video, Josh, in the next couple of weeks that I'm going to release about the all-time what-if teams, guys that what if they hadn't gotten hurt, or what if they hadn't gotten killed in a car wreck, or what if they hadn't done drugs, whatever,
Sure.
The what-if team. Like if this guy had stayed healthy, kept his junk together, and had a productive full NBA prime, where would they be historically? Bill Walton's on my video, right? He's in my NBA all-time 5. And he had it, obviously people know he had chronic foot issues, right? He, just like Kareem, absolutely dominated at UCLA. He was part of those 10 in a row that John Wooden won. And one of the greatest passing big men of all time, almost like a Sabonis before Sabonis. He won a title. I think the only title that the Portland Trailblazers have ever won, of course. I think in a season where I don't think anybody expected them to win it, and he went out and he won it. And he was that good of a teammate. Really, really brilliant dude. Even though he sounds kind of funny when he talks, brilliant dude. Pretty obnoxious as an announcer. Pretty Pac-10 homer, but very, very intelligent and thoughtful human being.
He did a baseball game for the White Sox, I think last year or 2 years ago, with the White Sox, with Jason Benetti from the White Sox. It was the funniest thing in the world. It was great. He is a trip, man. No pun intended, but he's great.
Yeah, pun intended. That dude was doing some acid and everything else he could get his hands on, right? He was probably creating drugs in an era where
mixing them together, right?
Was given to him. PSA 10 is only a pop 3. Just look at that guy. He looks like the leader of an Amish cult. And he was one of the
players. No.
Yeah, he's one of the best basketball players that ever lived. They called him Big Red or whatever, the Big Redhead. Havlicek. As a Celtics fan, as somebody who liked the Celtics and Boston Garden, Havlicek is super undervalued, super underappreciated in the hobby. One of the legendary Celtics on a list with so many other names, with Russell and Cousy and Bird and Marcus Smart. So, but Havlicek is up there. His PSA 9, is a pop 30. It's an $11,000 card. His PSA 10 is a banger. Card Ladder's got it at about $168,000. I don't think we'll see one of those at the National. It's a pop 2.
Yeah. No way.
Really, really monster card. And then we already talked about Gervin. And then I've got Nate Archibald on here. Crazy affordable in PSA 9. Tiny Archibald, as most people knew him, was a fantastic player. So I don't want to overlook him. His PSA 10 is a pop 1. That's that same year that we saw for the Rick Barry card, just that kind of forgotten year of 1971. Right. We know about 69, we know about 72, but 71 sort of gets forgotten. So that's Rick Barry and Tiny Archibald. And then And then we talked about Moses. So that's it, Josh. That's our list. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this. Again, we don't know anything and everything there is about, the history of NBA basketball, but I know enough to know that, it's important forming the foundation for what we have now. And we were talking about this in the Jordan group chat the other day is collecting baseball cards has been a thing for pushing 100 years.
Over 100 years.
Basketball cards wasn't a thing in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or early 80s, Josh. It kind of came on late, right? And so that's the difference between baseball and basketball. You can speak better to this. Tell me what you think about that.
There's been continuous baseball cards either in tobacco or gum or something since 1886. 1886, and now it's 2022. And the stuff in the 1880s goes for big dough. Stuff from the 1890s, early turn of the century, still goes for money. There's still a very healthy segment of the hobby that buys that stuff. I'll show you some tables at the show. And for basketball, though, you have the 48 set, then there's a 57 set, then there's a 61.
8-year gap, or 8-year gap, 9-year gap from 48 to 57, then another 4-year gap to 61, then another 8-year gap. Like nobody wants this crap, Josh. They didn't want it.
But there's regionals, right? There's a ton of regional issues that you're separate. There wasn't the internet in the 1950s, so you're separated by geography, and you didn't know it existed. How would you know?
You wouldn't.
If something in Kansas City was making, like a hot dog company made cards, like they have Conn's Wieners for baseball. That the package of the hot dogs were baseball cards. Those still go for an obscene amount of money. Basketball just, I don't know why, but they just didn't have continuous sets going out every year.
Think about it, Josh. Think about if we didn't have baseball cards from 1982 to 1984. We didn't have basketball cards.
Right.
It went from 81 Tops to the Star brand, which wasn't even really, we can get into that later. But think about that. And that was the 80s, man. That was when Bird and Magic were playing. We didn't have basketball cards. Right. And so the difference between baseball vintage and basketball vintage, I think, in football to some extent, is it's not nostalgic for dudes in their 60s or 70s to go get these cards because they weren't collecting them when they were kids.
They weren't around, right? Exactly.
They weren't around. Well, it just wasn't a thing. They existed, but it wasn't a thing. Whereas, if you show a 65-year-old guy a 52 Mantle, they're going to be like, that's a 52 Mantle. They know they've seen it. We all grew up seeing it. Even people our age, we grew up seeing vintage baseball cards in magazines and price guides and Beckett's and card shops and things like that. You didn't see as much of this stuff. And even though it's low pop, it does trail baseball vintage. So that's kind of always the discussion. But anyway, we're over an hour. Good Lord. We were supposed to do a top 10 list and take 3 minutes a card. And as usual, Cajun Cardboard took off with it and turned it into a long evening. But anyway, anything else you want to add? We will not be able this will be the last pop report for the National. I didn't tell you that. I'm on family vacation next week with wife and kids. So I'm getting away. So I've got 6 days with them. And then I come back for 1 day, which I won't have time to do another episode. And then we go to the National. And I meet you in Philly and we go.
I got to start organizing all my cards. I got my whole floor here set with cards to price and say what I'm taking with me because if I take it on the plane, I don't want to check it. So And then there's a UPS store in the convention center. I'm going to ship a bunch of stuff, not cars, but other stuff. I got some T-shirts made and then some other supplies I'm going to ship out there. And then just so
90sauctions.com T-shirts.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You owe me one.
Oh, I got one for you.
I sent you a Cajun Cardboard T-shirt, right?
I used it today. I worked out. I used it today. Exercised for an hour. Gave me extra strength to get through. So
did you cut the sleeves off and let the guns out or what?
No, it's I don't want to embarrass anybody, so I just kept them on. It's fine.
Respect the shirt. Respect the shirt. Well, cool. I definitely want to get one of those T-shirts from you for sure. I'll wear it on the flight back to Louisiana after the Nationals. So anyway, Josh, thanks for joining us as usual. Another episode. That's episode number 11, and this one was a little bit more up your alley. This was fun, man. Again, I need to pick up some of these cards. I feel like there's a little bit of a void in my collection not having any of these right now, but it's a problem I'm going to remedy pretty soon. How many of the cards we talked about today do you own?
I got about let me look. I got the Pistol Pete. I got the Hondo. I got the Mike, and I think I got only like 4 or 5. Like I don't really.
Well, the Nationals is probably a good place to pick this stuff up, especially in low to mid grade, and they're not really running right now, so you can go. I mean, you can kind of pick them up at pretty reasonable prices.
I bet you can get every single card on this list at the show.
No question. If you look hard enough, for sure. And it's easy to spot vintage tables because you don't have to put sunglasses on to look at it. Like all the bright, shiny crap that we look at now,
Right.
You don't have to put sunglasses on when you get to the vintage table. Plus, the guys that are selling them are like 100 years old. So
they're probably asleep anyway, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, can I have this? And he's snoozing, right?
Some of the meanest dealers. Some of the meanest dealers are the vintage guys. I never understood. Like, just a mean.
Even in the small sample size that I've experienced here in Louisiana at these little baby shows that are 30, 35 tables, some of the meanest people are the guys.
I don't get it. Like, it's cards. Have fun.
I know why. It's because number one, they're old. People get angry when they're old because everything hurts. But number two, they don't want to sell it anyway. So who gives a damn? Why am I being nice to you? I don't want to sell it. I really want to keep the card. I don't really want to sell it unless you overpay me for it, right?
Right. Yeah.
All
right.
So, all right, that wraps it up. That's episode number 11. Thanks, Josh. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Good luck in your work week. We'll probably talk by message or text, but we're not going to see each other until I get off that plane in Philadelphia. You better sit your ass down and wait for my flight to get there. Don't abandon me.
All right. I won't.
That did not sound convincing. Everybody knows you're lying. All right.
I'll see you later.
Later. Take it easy. Bye. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep collecting. Stay positive in the hobby. If you see me at the National, grab me. I expect you to. I like to meet all of you guys that I haven't got a chance to meet yet in person. But keep collecting. Stay positive in the hobby. Stay positive in the hobby, especially at the National. It's going to be a little bit of a stressful event, but let's go have some fun together. And peace.